Hello everyone, I am Martin Cervantes.
And I am Santiago Vasquez. Welcome to the Dot Pod.
Where communication truly matters.
I hope so, for his sake, my sake, and the sake of our guest. You wanted to say something to the audience?
Yes, we would like to thank everybody for watching our podcast. We really appreciate your support. And we would like for you to share with your friends, your family. If you like this, please share it. You know, our goal is to communicate with Wyandotte County. Keep it positive, nothing negative. You know, it's just all positive, you know.
Today is a beautiful Sunday out there. Today is also Sunday, Palm Sunday. Today is
Palm Sunday.
It is Palm Sunday.
Yes. Well, as you can see, we record this prior to Tuesday. That's the release day. So it is Sunday, a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day.
Yeah.
And it's a blessed day because today with us we have Mr. Alex Mathew with Youth for Christ. So let's give him a great round of applause.
Yes.
Welcome to our small podcast, which we hope will continue to grow and grow a little bit more.
Alex Mathew is a man of God that I met 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's been that.
It's been an honor. I've learned a lot from Alex. We work together, helping the youth in Wyandotte County. He's an amazing person. He does an amazing work with our youth, and helping our youth to stay focused, to do the right thing, stay positive. You know, I admire Alex and his work. Yeah.
So Alex, before we start asking you questions pertinent to Youth for Christ, would you please tell the audience and tell us a little bit more about your cultural background and your ethnicity?
Yeah, my name's Alex, and so I'm the executive director at Youth for Christ. And culturally, my family is originally from India, and so I was born in the United States, but my mom and my dad, they're from the most southern part of India, and we talked about it beforehand, but this little part of India called Kerala, the most southern state, it is where Thomas, so he's a disciple of Jesus, it's in the Bible, actually he's called Doubting Thomas.
The Doubting Thomas.
Yeah, Doubting Thomas, and he actually shared the message of Jesus. So as we're leading into Easter, he shared that Easter message. And not long after he shared it, he was eventually martyred and killed in that village.
Wow.
But still to this day, that village has the strongest density of Christians than in any other place in India, where it's predominantly Hindu and Buddhist.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's always good to know.
Yeah.
It's always good to know, and it's always never to assume about people's cultural background. So it's always great to ask. It's always great to learn so that we can have a better understanding.
You mean communicate?
Communicate.
Communicate
So that we can have a better understanding of who we are and who the other person is or happens to be. Now, where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Dallas, Texas. And so my parents met and got married in Chicago. And one thing about being immigrants and not having much money is that they end up getting married first, and then they went to go visit the parents. So this was before Zoom. This was before any type of, this was in the early 70s, right? And so all that to say is that they didn't have the technology. And so, but Chicago was too cold. Coming from a tropical climate of India, they needed to go south, and so they end up going to Texas. And then that's where I was born.
I can relate to that.
So definitely no snow, much snow. They actually just had snow recently.
Yes.
And they didn't know what to do.
They didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So grew up in Dallas, Texas. And so it was a blessing because my family didn't have much. But I grew up in the hood and got to really understand kind of the diversity of cultures, even in places where people don't necessarily want to go. Yeah.
Okay, so you went to high school in Dallas.
Yeah, high school in Dallas.
And after high school, what did you do?
Yeah, so right after high school, part of my community is that you have to have a plan, either being a doctor or a lawyer or engineer. And so I wanted to be a teacher or a lawyer. That was my two options, right? And
so two options.
Yeah. So I ended up going to University of Dallas. It's a Catholic university in Dallas, Texas. and so obviously University of Dallas, right? So, but it was there when I started like learning more about other places outside of my own community. And so my senior year of college, I ended up forfeiting my scholarship to go to the inner city of Chicago. And they had a huge need because back in those days, Chicago was known as Chirac.
Oh, yes.
Because it had more killings in Chicago than was in the war in Iraq.
That's correct.
On any given day, any given week, any
Yes.
given year.
Sad.
And so for that, I forfeited that. And my parents, man, they were immigrant parents. It's all about education. Education. And so they were so upset, but I learned so much. And then from there is actually where I moved to Kansas City.
So you became a teacher in Chicago.
Yeah. So Chicago, I taught, yes.
You end up graduating from.
So no. So
Okay. So
yeah. I'll tell you this. Yeah. So
okay. So tell
crazy.
us.
So end up in Chicago school district, you have it's a number of credit hours you have of college. So I had enough credit hours so I could teach.
Wow!
Yeah,
so the need for teachers was
huge,
outrageous,
especially male teachers. So I taught 8th grade history, and I had enough credits in American history and world history that I was able to teach. And so the first year was like teaching. The second year, then I did go to school in Chicago, but I actually finished school here in Kansas City. Okay. So it took me a while. I went the long route.
No, that's okay because I did the same.
Oh, you did? Okay.
No, I did the same. I coming from Venezuela.
Yeah.
I ended up going to high school here for a year.
Okay.
I went to a community college. I took a break from school, became a police officer. Wow. Then I ended up getting my bachelor's from Baker University.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to school, but it's so expensive.
Right. Well, I feel like you guys speak in a foreign language because I never went to college. I never went to a university.
Well, listen,
but I do have my GED.
Yeah.
So I feel good that I didn't burn all my brain cells. I still have it. I passed it the first time I tried. So yeah.
But you don't have to be an erudite.
Right.
You don't have to. You can be an autodidact polymath.
I don't even know those words. You know those words?
Meaning, like I said, you can be a self-educated person. You can have all the education in the world,
right?
And you can be a horrible person,
right?
And you can have this much and give this much more.
That's where I fit in.
I love you. If I have your looks. And the height of Alex, I would be in Hollywood making
Mr. Cervantes, he's got, when he walks into a room, no one ever checks his credentials. He just has his presence. He has a PhD in real life.
He does.
Thank you.
What is that called? Well, he's an erudite.
Yeah.
He's a polymath, autodidact.
Yeah.
It is practical.
Yeah.
And what's the word that I'm looking for? God, there's a word for that. What is it?
You run out of words.
I totally forgot about it. It'll come to us. Okay, so wait, hold it. So you go to.
I don't know which way to turn.
Okay, so we were talking about you end up. So somehow you end up in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So how did you end up here in Kansas City?
Yeah. So there's a place called the Hope Center, and the real reason is a woman. So my wife. I was dating her long distance, but there was a job at the Hope Center, and the Hope Center was in Kansas City, Missouri. Eventually, I came to the right side, Wyandotte County, but I was on the Kansas City, Missouri side, and we just served in the inner city there. So many similarities to Chicago, and then what's really cool is that when I actually worked for the Hope Center for a period of time, I ended up hearing about an opportunity to serve at another organization here in Kansas City, Kansas. Eventually led to working for Youth for Christ.
I want to go back.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Chicago.
Yep.
You become a teacher.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And from what I understand, you were the only male teacher there. How did that make you feel? And also, how did the youth maybe was able to connect with you on a different level?
What was the response?
Yeah, so in Chicago they had K through 8th, and so in the upper school, so the 6th through 8th grade, I was the only male teacher. There was one male kindergarten teacher, but we were in different form. We were like it's like a foreign country, just because of the upper school. But in that upper school, like the junior high school, the only other male figure was a janitor, and so for me to be one of the only minority men. I walked into the classroom knowing that, they're going to watch what I'm wearing. They're going to also only hear a little bit of what I'm saying. So I had to make sure my presence was solid. And so I was actually telling you guys beforehand that, what you wore mattered. And so you had to look professional because you had to model something countercultural. Because for so many of the men in the communities that we were serving, they didn't see men get up to go to work in the morning, and so for me, I made sure I wore the best that I had, so they could understand that I'm trying to give them the best that I can give them.
Wow, that's amazing. That's presentation.
Oh my gosh, yes. What about you guys? You guys feel like especially for me, sometimes being a minority male. I think it's, sometimes people, when you walk in a room, they sometimes judge you. So I just want to make sure that they're hopefully judging me in a positive way.
Yes.
And you know what? In my own personal experience, I have never really thought about that.
Wow.
Number one, I know who I am.
That's awesome.
Once
again, you got a PhD. So
I'm secure of myself. I know who I am. I believe in myself. I believe in what I'm doing. So for me to come in and to feel like, oh, you know what, this is nothing but highly educated people, it just, to me, doesn't really matter. I've never been the type of person that I feel like I've been judged.
Wow, that's
everything that I have, well, since I started doing right, I've earned it. I have been able to have a job, keep up with, waking up in the morning, going to work, and being a single parent for 12 years and taking care of my son with the help of my family, my sisters, So I never felt that I've been judged.
Wow.
And this is just me.
No, I agree with you, but however, in regards to looking presentable, it is important.
Yeah.
It is important to look presentable because people can have a lot of misconceptions about who you are because of the way that you're dressed. I spent 27 years of my life in the police department, and I always tried to look impeccable.
Right.
That was always my goal. Like during the winter time, I always wore long sleeves and I wore a tie. And from time to time, I would wear my police hat, which unfortunately, when you look at police officers, most of the time when we wear the police hat, it's for special ceremonies or for funerals.
Right, that's what I see. Yeah.
And I went to many calls, of course, in my lifetime as a police officer. And a lot of people will tell me, officer, the reason that I spoke to you was because you were the most impeccable, the one that was nicely dressed. You had the creases on your uniform, and you were calm. You look like a professional. And it's amazing how that impacts.
Yeah.
That impact is kind of like making eye contact.
Right.
Making that handshake. As an instructor of martial arts, I teach that to my kids. Always make eye contact. And when you make that handshake, make sure that it's firm.
Right.
Make sure that it's firm, and make sure that whatever comes out of your mouth is always the truth. And never over promise, or never promise something that you can never achieve. Always say, let me see what I can do. I'm going to do my best.
Yeah.
I will try my best. And for instance, I had the opportunity to travel to Japan to train martial arts. And when you train martial arts in Japan, they use an expression and a word. There is a word called doryoku. Dorio, meaning do your best. Even through the toughest times, you must do your best. And the other expression is gambatte kudasai. Gambatte, the word gambatte comes from the word combat.
Wow.
Is the basically the Japanicized, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, of the word combat, the French, from the French combat. And kudasai means please, and it means do your best. Imagine if the Raiders come to Kansas City to play against the Chiefs.
They did.
One second.
They did.
One second. And all of a sudden, the Kansas City Chiefs fans decide to tell the Raiders, please do your best against their team. So that expression of gambatte kudasai means do your best. And they even chant that against the opposing team. So they can bring the best out of our team.
Wow.
So do your best all the time. And it was, to me, it was like first time I couldn't comprehend that. But as time went on, you go, okay.
Yeah.
But enough of me.
Yeah.
Well, let's go with doing your best.
Yeah.
You know, in life and what we do and what we believe is right. Alex.
Yeah.
What really? How was your passion? How was it born to help our youth?
Yeah.
What touched you? What
is it your faith in
Yeah, you know,
were you always a devout Christian?
No, I was not. And so I think, going into college, I was a confused Christian. I thought it was about just what you wore, not about what you do. And the more I grow, the more I realize it's about the things that you do. And then it complements kind of your appearance. But what you do matters. Your actions speak volumes. And so there was a verse that I saw in the book of Mathew, and it said, when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was a stranger, you invited me in. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was sick, you visited me. When I was in prison, you came to me.
Wow.
And I was looking at this, and I was just like, wow, some of these things I have done, but there are other things I have not done. And even working in organizations, teachers, non-for-profits, I realized that there was a population that was invisible to me. And that population was what was the prisoner population, especially with young people that are going into prison for the first time. And so that's what really got me, was reading God's word, seeing that God was going to meet you there. Because when he said, when I was in prison, you came to me, that's him telling me that if you go to tough places, it's going to be uncomfortable, but you're going to find a little bit more of me there. And I think that's what's really cool. I just left a detention center, Wyandotte County JDC, and we just had a chapel service there. And it's amazing because these young people come in and you can see them let their guard down and just allow God to just start working on their heart. And I think that's just to see that is miraculous. I get to sit back and just see them. And then for me to say I was with Mr. C this afternoon, they were jealous because they don't, actually Mr. C actually is the one that really reminded me that we don't necessarily have, the crime problem, the drug problem, the prison problem. We have the father problem. And so they don't see a lot of family units, especially fathers. And so, Mr. C is like a father figure. And for me to be associated as a chaplain in Wyandotte JDC with him, it's just an honor. It's like, we're just like, kind of, we're just fathers that are trying to see our sons do better things than us.
Amen.
So you come to Kansas City.
Yeah.
You have this long distance relationship.
Yeah, long distance relationship.
And who?
Yeah, so my wife.
Talk about this person?
Yeah, we can talk. So she is proudly married to for now. It's going to be 15 years.
Oh, so this long distance relationship.
3 kids, 3 sons.
Oh, so this is your wife.
This is my wife. This is my wife.
Thank you, Lord.
If I was going to make that sacrifice, I had to count the cost. And so it's a blessing. And Andrea, She has a pottery studio in Strawberry Hill.
Oh, she's an artiste.
Epic art. She's an artiste. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She's an artiste. Yeah. She picked a masterpiece. You know. No. I'm trying to get that confidence of Mr. C. You know. But yeah, we are all masterpieces. It says in God. God has created us to be that. But yeah, that's it. So it's a blessing because she's the one that has a heart for the communities that people don't want to live in. Whenever you see communities in Wyandotte County that are on the news, even yesterday, last night, we're hearing noises, we're seeing tow trucks come, we're hearing sirens. But to be honest with you, it's my wife's passion for the least of these. And what I mean is that everybody matters. Yes. That's what I mean. It's not saying that there are more important. It's just there are communities that are underserved.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I love about my wife is her heart for the underdogs. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
Yeah.
The first time you went to a detention center.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Oh my gosh. So first of all, I was looking around to see if there was any other Indians in the whole place. I couldn't find one. So I realized I'm on my own here. But the moment I saw Mr. C, I remember this vividly, I saw Mr. C with the walkie-talkie and his confidence. I was like, I'm just going to follow him around. And so that's what I did. I've learned just to follow him and I'll be okay. You know?
I hope I don't get you in trouble, Alex.
Okay, so you come to Kansas City.
Yeah.
Were you already involved in some kind of a Christian youth group?
Yeah, so I was involved, but this was targeted towards one ethnic group.
Okay.
And I realized that God wanted me to, wanted me to live in a community that was diverse and also serve a diverse group of young people. And that's what I love about Wyandotte County, is that we are a diverse county. Like it is unbelievable.
A plethora of cultures.
And my kids are biracial. So for them, they feel at home in Wyandotte County. Because you can go down one street, you can go down another street, completely different foods, completely different peoples. And so that's what I love about this county is that it's got so much culture that we are the capital of a lot of things here.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes,
so how did you get? First of all, let's go with this. How did you get involved with Youth for Christ?
Yeah,
and what is Youth for Christ?
So Youth for Christ is a national, international ministry that reaches young people wherever they're at, and we care for them too much to leave them there. And we began with rallies. If you have any gray hair in you, you remember the big rallies. Our first full-time staff person was Billy Graham. Billy Graham,
wow.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
But Billy Graham, so it was big stadiums and it was big clubs but over time we realized kids don't want entertainment. They get entertainment on their phone.
Yes.
These young people, they want to feel like they belong to a community. They want to belong to a family. And so for us to have time with them, authentic, and we say Christ-sharing relationships, it is to walk with a young person to see them do greater things even in God than you can. And so that's where Youth for Christ Foundation is. And how I got connected was the president of Youth for Christ USA came to Kansas City, and I was at a banquet, I was invited, and he said, we need someone in Kansas City that can reach more young people in juvenile detention centers.
Oh, wow.
And
Alex.
I didn't say that. I looked around and said, anybody else? And you know what? And if God can choose me, God can choose you.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's national?
It's a national and international. So 160 chapters throughout the United States.
Wow.
And then 101 different countries throughout the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, pardon me, Mr. Sir. Go ahead, Mr. Sir.
Do you have any other groups, any chapters, any within your group here?
So we have two models. So there's multiple ministry models, and so right now we serve 5 detention centers on the Kansas side, on the Missouri side, And once again, you see the two different cultures, even in facilities. But then we also serve young teen parents. And so we provide youth ministry to incarcerated youth. But then when they get out, if they are young fathers or mothers, similar to Mr. C, like a lot of your story connected with why we decided to start not only a juvenile justice ministry, I'm wearing the t-shirt, for detention centers, but also parent life. We realized that we had a problem with families. Young people didn't have families to go into that they might have been safe, but they weren't pointing them to greater things. If that makes sense?
Yes.
And so for young gang leaders, when they are a young father, they have more to live for when we can remind them that they can break that generational curse. They can. And Mr. C, I remember, and I don't want to quote you, but you said something as we were starting Parent Life, and you volunteer with us, you and your wife.
Yes, sir. Yes.
You said something about even you, as you were in the shoes of these young people, when you became a father, it was a switch turned on. And I don't know if they've heard this story, but it was one of the main reasons why we do those two ministry models, Juvenile Justice Ministry and Parent Life, here in Kansas City, with over 45 volunteers. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Do you remember that story?
Yes. And I remember that clearly. Cutting the umbilical cord and telling my son, I will do whatever it takes for you to have a better future. I remember the nurse looked at me like, "You're crazy, man. He can't understand what you're saying." So, no, I just made a promise to my son. So. And another thing, 90% of the youth that you help and serve, and I know most of them.
Yeah,
it's just, and that is the connection, and that's why we believe so much in communicating, and not just like it's about Youth for Christ.
Right.
It's not about the school district. It's not about this other organization. It's about all of us coming together as one to help our youth, our future. Not just one organization, but everybody coming together.